go with your FCS tour for Saturday and November the 9th. Up for you today. I've got 4 selections for you. The selections went 3-2 last week. Now 18-11 on the year, so you got to like that. These are 4 official selections. And before I get to it, I do want to remind you, if you go to Phil Steele, if you go to the store at philsteele.com, just click on the store you get here. The FCS magazine gets you 2 full pages on every FCS team. Give you a sample copy here. Look at this. It's just like the regular magazine, and 2 full pages. You get the last 5 years, stats for last year, and you'll want this during the FCS playoffs. It even gives you how they've done in the playoffs, so you can see the playoff history on the teams, complete write-up on the teams, so you know about each and every position. And then, of course, if you have Phil Steele Plus, I'll click out of that. But that's 2 full pages on every FCS team for just $25. If you have access to Phil Steele Plus, you get access to these same team pages I'm showing you. You have access to the individual player stats, to the team stats, to the red and green, the average game grade, the last 4 weeks. You have access to all that. Price just $79 right now. That's right here. And it's $10 off. Type in the code word Expert Wins. That's Expert Wins, and you get Phil Steele Plus all the way through the Super Bowl for just $69. All right, with that said, let's get to your let's get to your first selection for today. And as you see, it's going to be Sacramento State against Montana State. So let's line that one up here. Montana State comes ranked number 2. That's these guys over here. Number 2 in the FCS. 9-0 this season. That's a lot of green over here, huh? I like that. They are plus 24 yards per game. As you see here, they're outscoring their opponents 42-18. Plus 217 yards per game. That's pretty dominant. And they've got wins over New Mexico right here in the opening game of the season, an FCS team. And they beat Idaho. And evidently Idaho's a good team, or Chris wouldn't have mentioned it here. The Bobcats are led by quarterback Tommy Mellott. Now, we know Tommy Mellott. He's been their quarterback here the previous year. He was a quarterback here. Led them to some pretty good records. They got to the playoffs. They lost to North Dakota State there, South Dakota State there. This is a really good team. He has a 19-1 ratio this year. Wow, last year it was only 10-2, but he and Sean Chambers combined for an 18-4 ratio, so now he's getting all the snaps. He's got 19 touchdown passes, just 1 interception. They're also running for 311, 6.8 yards per carry. That's all really good numbers for Montana State. Now, Sac State was impressive early in the season, keeping games close against San Jose and Fresno State, and they won their first 2 FCS games by 27 and 34. But they suffered some key injuries and have lost 4 of the last 5. Sac State's losses have come to Northern Arizona by 18, Eastern Washington by 7, Idaho State by 3, and last week they lost 58-38 to Portland State. Now, Montana State beat that same Portland State team 44-14 and had a 607 to 235-yard edge. Sac State's run D has allowed a lot of red recently. Look at this, 258 yards per game, 5.5 the last 4 weeks. And they now face this number 2 ranked rush offense. So it's a red-green matchup, their rush attack versus this rush defense. And that's the beauty of the last 4 weeks. I love it in the FBS, and you could see it here in the FCS. As he mentioned, Sac State played well early, but this is not the same Sac State team. This is one that's given up 258 yards per game right now. In non-conference play, they only gave up 64 yards per game. Chris says he thinks the Bobcats will keep the momentum rolling with a dominant win, and Sac State is no longer in playoff contention at 3-6. Take Montana State 41-10. They're minus 17.5. So that's Montana State minus 17.5. All right, we got Rhode Island going against Delaware in the next matchup. Hopefully I picked the right team for the home team. I didn't do any research on these prior. Nope, it's at Delaware, so I'm going to put Delaware on the right. And we're going to put Rhode Island on the left. I always like to put the home team on the right. The Delaware Fighting Blue Hens. And we're going to put Rhode Island. Once again, I don't study the FCS that much, guys, but you just learn so much. All you have to do is open up a team page, open up the 2 pages of the magazine, and you're an instant expert. Is that the right team? Rhode Island? Yep, Rhode Island Rams. All right, so let's see what we got going on here. Chris has Rhode Island plus 10.5. Let's see why. Rhode Island's 8-1, and they are ranked number 10 in the country. The Rams' lone loss was a press box best bet winner when they lost at Minnesota 48-0. The Rams are 8-0 straight up versus FCS opponents. Delaware comes in 7-1 in their final year of the FCS. Remember, they're going to be in my magazine next year. Now, 2 weeks ago, we went with Delaware minus 5.5, and they got behind early and never recovered in a 28-9 loss against Richmond. Delaware's fresh off a bye, and 2 weeks ago they were minus 14.5 against Albany and won by 14. That Albany team is now 3-7, so that's not Rhode Island. Rhode Island is led by Virginia Tech transfer Devin Farrell, PS 51. Let's see how Devin Farrell's doing individually. You know, you can check out the individual stats. They are updated every week as well. So you can see what he's done on the season, every single game right there. That's his yearly average right there. And running back Malik Grant, who is an FCS All-American at Sacred Heart in 21 and 22. He's running for 789 5.0. You got to like that. The AGG says Delaware by 6.4. In the last 4 weeks, only has Delaware by 3.4. And that's here. You see they're 82.8. Chris gives them a 2-point home edge, so that's 84.8. And they're 80.9, so that's 3.9. My computer only has Delaware by 4. Rhode Island's covered 3 straight, including an upset in New Hampshire. And by the way, once again, when you go here, these FCS information, we got FBS information. You know all about that. I show that all the time. We have NFL information, all this stuff. By the way, who's got the best strength of wins, pain of losses here in the NFL? Kansas City, 33-0. You get credit for every loss of an opponent you lose to. You get credit for every win of an opponent you beat. 33-0, 30-5. Minnesota's up there, 25-5. Look at this division here. Detroit, Minnesota, Green Bay all up there. How far down is Chicago? Chicago's here. Who's the worst? Carolina, 4-28. Miami is 4-24. Once again, they've only beaten teams that have won a total of 4 games this year. All right, let's go to the FCS now. And FCS information. You get the average game grades. Who's the best team right now? North Dakota State. I just showed you their 2 pages. Hey, Montana State, that's the team we just talked about. They're number 2 in the FCS. They're number 2 in my AGG as well. And let's go back here, see what else we got going on. FCS information. Pass efficiency defense. McNeese State, Nichols, Montana. Once again, we take into a strength the opponent faced. Weakest pass defense, Marist, Colgate, Eastern Illinois. That's updated every single week, just like the FBS. It's updated on the FBS as well. Also under FCS information, we have the average game grades at FCS standings, ATS logs. That's what I wanted to show you. We were just talking about this Rhode Island team, and oops, that's FBS. Let's click back out of that for a minute. FCS logs. Who keeps track of logs in the FCS? We do. We've been doing it for 6 years. We keep track of every single line on every single game. So as you see, Rhode Island, win, win, win. You got to like that. And Delaware, what have they done recently? Delaware, a couple of losses recently. They were playing better in the middle of the year. But all that information is available for you. So now let's go back to our write-up here and see what we got. So Malik Grant was at Sacred Heart. Did a good job there. Was FCS All-American. Rhode Island's covered 3 straight, including an outright upset in New Hampshire. So evidently New Hampshire's a good team. He had a 318 to 235 edge. So he's taken Rhode Island plus 10.5 against Delaware. His final score, Delaware 24, Rhode Island 21. All right, Central Connecticut State is against Stonehill. Anybody out there know Stonehill's nickname? Because I sure as hell don't. Stonehill is the Skyhawks. They're led by Eli Gardner. He's in his 8th year. You know, their starting quarterback, they've actually had 2 quarterbacks playing this year. Look, I could become an instant expert. I could do a radio show on Stonehill right now, just looking at this sheet. I could say, hey, Stonehill's not having a very good year. They're 1-7. They have a tough time stopping a run. They have a tough time running the ball. They've got 2 quarterbacks they're using, and their top running back is 500 yards. They have very little production in the receiving core. I could say all that just looking at the screen. I'm an instant expert on Stonehill. Who's home for this one? Stonehill's at home. Good. Chris has taken Central Connecticut State minus 11.5 over Stonehill. Central Connecticut State's nickname is the Blue Devils. He says that Central Connecticut State is only 4-5 this year. Yeah, we see that. 6-2-1 ATS. I could go back to the logs and show you, but trust me on that. We cashed a play on Central Connecticut State as a 13.5-point dog against Dartmouth back on 10-19. You guys remember that? That's a game where they nearly pulled the upset. Now, Central Connecticut State is 1-5 straight up on the road, but did upset St. Francis. Where's St. Francis? Here they are, 27-20, who beat Kent State And the Blue Devils' last 4 road losses are by just 12 points. They lost to UMass by 4. Remember, UMass, an FBS team. UMass transfer Brady Olson has a 13-5 ratio. Hey, Brady Olson was I think he was a good PS number too. He was at UMass. Has a 13-5 ratio. It's stepping down in class. Stonehill 2-6 ATS this year. Last year they lost to St. Francis, 34-0. Last week, I should say. They finished with just 56 yards. Look at that, 56 yards offense in an entire game, guys. Gave up 477. Wow. Stonehill is off a misleading loss to Duquesne. Oh, that's over here. They lost by 14, right? They trailed that game 48-20, but scored 2 touchdowns in the final 2 minutes and only lost by 14. So these are garbage yards they got in there. They've also lost by 20 to Merrimack, 24 to Long Island, 21 to Wagner. Now, Central Connecticut State is plus 80 in conference play. You guys know I like to use this conference ranking. Plus 80. Stonehill is minus 293. Holy cow. That is bad. Minus 293 in conference play. The AGG is Central Connecticut State by 19.4. They're only laying 11.5. Last 4 weeks has them by 23. Look at the red these last 4 weeks. This strikes me as a team that might have given up on the season. This is a team that's starting to play better and got some hope. Remember, last year they were bad. So this isn't like a winning team that's 4-5. This is a team that's ascending. I like that. And it looks like they're ascending this year. Pick up this one, maybe a couple more. You have a winning season. And I like the fact Brady Olson is there at the quarterback spot. He said Central Connecticut State's better than the record, should win the game by more than 2 touchdowns. The play is Central Connecticut State minus 11.5 over Stonehill. He's got it 31-13. All right, we got UC Davis against Montana. Let's hope we get the right team. Is UC Davis at home? Yes. No, they're at Montana. All right, I'll put Montana on the right, and we will put UC Davis on the left. Let's go take a look at it that way. Montana versus UC Davis. So we are on the road. He likes UC Davis, by the way, plus 6.5. Montana's a good team, so you better have some good logic behind this one, Chris. This game is on ESPN2 at 10:15 tonight. Now, he says that UC Davis is out for revenge. All right, let's take a look at last year. They played Montana and lost 31-23. Looks like they had the yardage edge and the first down edge in the game, too. So that was not a bad loss. They lost at home 31-23. UC Davis has been one of the hottest teams in the FCS. They have won all 8 games against FCS foes, and their only loss was to Cal. Cal's a really good team, guys. Take a drink there. And they actually had the yardage edge against Cal. Wow, look at that. Look at this over here. They had held Cal to a season low. Their defense held Cal to a season low, 281 yards. Underrated defense. They are plus 115 yards per game and plus 160 in the Big Sky. Now, Miles Hastings has a 20-6 ratio, as you see there. Land Larson is both their top rusher, 821 yards, and receiver, 524. But they've got, look at all these guys with 20-plus catches, so they distribute the ball well. Montana has won 3 straight, but did lose at home to Weber State, right here. And they are 1-4 ATS at home. Let's go back to those logs for a minute. FCS logs. We're going to go to Montana. I want to double check that this is all correct. At home, they lost to Missouri State, beat Morehead State, lost to Western Carolina, lost to Weber. Now remember, on the logs, guys, the wins, losses does not go to the score. It refers to the spread. You have to look at the score to see who won the game. And in the future, we'll put the winning team in bold like we do in the logs for the FBS. But the win-loss refers to the spread record of the team. And remember, you can get the last 6 years spread logs. Actually, look at this. It says last 6 years, but it's actually the last 7 years spread logs. That are here on the FCS, and now you've got the access to the ACE. You got 8 years of spread logs. Who has that? Nobody. We've got it. I've been keeping track of the spread every single Saturday. We've checked and write down all the numbers and keep track of it. So Montana's won 3 straight, but they are 1-4 ATS at home. The computer only has Montana by 2. My computer does. I've got, you know how I have 9 sets of power ratings, break it all down, things. It's got Montana by 2. The last 4 weeks, look at this. The last 4 weeks, let's look how they're current playing. They're at an 82.4 level, and UC Davis is at a 94 level. So that's saying UC Davis outright by 8.6. The Aggies are getting nearly a touchdown here. We are taking we're taking UC Davis plus 6.5 over Montana. So Montana State minus 17.5, Rhode Island plus 10.5, Central Connecticut minus 11.5, UC Davis plus 6.5. Remember, you got all these stats for all these games, individual leaders since 2019. He talked about that Sacred Heart dude. We do have Sacred Heart. Let's go take a look. Hey, there's Malik Grant, 724. Malik Grant. You want to see the games Malik Grant did best in? You got individual player stats. You can see he had 104 here. He had 118 there, 133 there. It's pretty neat to use. All this information is yours. Just get access to Phil Steele Plus. So thanks for taking the tour. Hopefully we got a nice big winning week this week. 18-11 for these FCS plays. And if you haven't checked it out already, get my FBS tour. That's up and available right now. You get three selections and 5 quick hitters are available right now. And thank you for taking the Phil Steele Plus tour.